Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start with a question. What drives us to define something as right or wrong? Is it our environment? Is it something spiritual? Or does science hold the answer to morality? Today, I'd like to explore how morality stems from the interaction of science and spirituality, the role of truth in our lives, and how our understanding of morality shapes the way that we confront evil. As a woman of science and faith myself, I found it deeply fascinating researching these topics, and I'm more than happy to be able to share my findings with you today. But I stand up here not to be able to answer all your questions, because unfortunately, I simply don't know it all. If I did, it would have made this speech so much easier, and also my A-levels. But anyway, here I am, and I am more than honored to be able to talk to you today. So at its heart, morality is a compass by which we steer our lives. For some, it represents a collection of universal principles, constant and unyielding. And for others, it is a more fluid construct, shaped by personal experiences and societal influences. This raises a dilemma. Is morality objective or subjective? An analogy for this dilemma is imagining that you're in a boat, navigating down a wide river. There are two banks. Firstly, you have the objective bank, solid, unchanging truths, like trees and rocks rooted firmly in place. Then you have the subjective bank, an ever-changing landscape, like reeds and sandbars rearranged by the current. You, in the boat, must navigate between these two banks. If you cling too tightly to one side, you risk being stuck, unable to adapt to the river's twists and turns. But if you drift aimlessly towards the other, you risk losing any sense of direction or grounding. The challenge of morality is about learning how to steer your boat. It's about balancing objective truths, solid foundations, with the ability to adapt and change with the currents of time. The river itself represents the unpredictable flow of cultures, experiences, and perspectives that make up life. And ultimately, morality isn't about reaching one bank or the other, but it's about finding a way to move forward, to develop, to grow, to thrive. But the challenge with morality is that often what we believe to be our moral truth often feels intrinsic, as if it were born within us. But in more cases than not, our inner truth is actually a reflection of our external circumstances, hence leading to its fragility and significance for personal growth. And yet, regardless of its origins, morality serves a purpose. It supports the development of a framework for living together. It guides us through chaotic situations and allows us to confront what we label as evil. But let's hone in on what evil actually means. Is it something we can all agree on, with one definition? Or is it simply something that defies our personal moral code? I'd like to propose that perhaps evil should not be viewed as an external entity, but rather a deep-seated disconnect from empathy, from understanding, from each other. Let's take history's most infamous examples of evil. In each situation lies a chilling commonality, an othering to those deemed different, unworthy, threatening, where we fail to integrate, evil thrives in isolation, which is often fueled by belief systems, exclusive worldviews labeling one path as right and all others as wrong. This raises the debate of exclusivism versus pluralism. Exclusivism insists that there is only one true way, one correct belief system, be it a political ideology, a religious view, or even scientism, which is the excessive belief that science is the only answer. Pluralism, however, suggests the idea that perhaps multiple paths may coexist and lead to meaningful lives. In grappling with morality, pluralism invites us to consider that perhaps no one has all the answers, and that's okay. But where does science fit into this? And what about spirituality? Well, science and spirituality have long been constructed as polar opposites. Science, led by cold, hard facts. Spirituality, by faith and meaning. But are they really enemies at all? I'd like to propose that perhaps science and spirituality shouldn't be seen as opposites, but rather as complementary ideas, each addressing different perspectives of fundamental questions. Science explains how the universe works. It tells us why the sun rises, how neurons fire, even how our moral instincts developed as a survival mechanism. But science doesn't explain why the sunrise feels so beautiful, why our emotions are so strong, or even what purpose our life should hold. Now that's where spirituality comes in. Spirituality, religion for many, offers the scaffolding to interpret these why questions. It answers not with evidence, but through meaningful stories. So when science lacks spirituality's moral compass, or spirituality rejects science's scrutiny, we are left with discarded pluralism and disconnect, the perfect breeding ground for evil. Now I know, I've taken a very philosophical approach to this discussion. So just to please you scientists out there in the room, let's have a look at some examples of where science and religion have worked together for the greater good. Firstly, the Big Bang Theory, one of the most recognized scientific theories for the beginning of the universe, that astronomers today still believe provide the foundation for current cosmological work. And yet, there is still a lot of controversy over this idea. But the individual who theorized this in the first place was actually a Catholic priest himself, Georges Lemaitre. Lemaitre did not see his scientific contributions as conflicting with his religious views, but rather he saw them as complementary understandings to improve our understanding of the universe and what role we play. So what does this show us? It tells us that science does not disprove God. Science and religion have been working together for generations, each addressing different perspectives to improve our understanding. For some, the Big Bang Theory is a scientific idea that aligns with religious narratives. And for others, it emphasizes the autonomy of the universe, potentially challenging traditional religious views and encouraging non-religious moral philosophies. Lemaitre's scientific contributions have expanded humanity's understanding of the universe, and his religious beliefs have offered a moral and philosophical lens through which to interpret these findings. So Lemaitre's life and his abilities have shown and provided a powerful case study for how science and religion really do go hand in hand, and how they can improve what we perceive about the world around us. But let me give you maybe a more modern day example, some may argue a more scientific example. the placebo effect. It refers to the perceived or measurable improvement in a patient's condition, not due to the actual efficacy of a treatment, but rather due to the belief and expectation in healing. It is one of the most compelling intersections between science and belief. This phenomenon highlights how the mind affects the body, raising important questions around the role of faith, psychology, and hope in healing. Through a more scientific lens, neuroscientific studies have shown that individuals who have belief in a certain treatment will often secrete neurotransmitters like serotonin, endorphins, and dopamine to help alleviate pain and improve your mood. Functional MRI scans have shown that the brain regions associated with pain management and with emotional regulation become activated when an individual believes that they are receiving effective treatment. So while faith healing and the placebo effect certainly differ, they share common psychological and physiological mechanisms. In many religious traditions, the importance of divine intervention, spiritual practices, and meditation has shown itself through the importance of faith in healing. And more research is being done to show the importance of belief to lower stress hormones like cortisol, which would otherwise weaken the immune system. As many of the medics in the room may know, medicine is working towards more comprehensive care, with more holistic medicine, with spiritual counseling, meditation, and mindfulness being prevalent to complement medical treatments, to leverage the body's natural healing systems. So, the placebo effect shows us that belief, whether in religion, in medicine, or in oneself, can lead to real physiological benefits. But even with science and spirituality offering us these tools, the truth that we hold about morality is something deeply personal. We create a map of truth from our upbringings, our personal experiences, and our cultures. And this can feel liberating. We are free to determine our own truths. But it's also what makes morality so fragile. Because if we each have our own individual truths, what prevents chaos? This is where morality's purpose becomes ever more clearer. It's not about imposing one universal truth, but rather by creating a shared understanding, which values diverse opinions through pluralism, but also has boundaries to prevent harm. Essentially, can we reconcile our individual truths with a collective moral code? To overcome havoc and evil, we must unite. Not just science and spirituality, but also our individual truths with collective morality. We must ensure that we value pluralism, looking at diverse opinions. And exclusivism, while often rigid, reminds us of the importance of conviction. Together, they tell us that morality is something that is so strongly and deeply personal, but it is also something that is totally communal. And so, I believe the purpose of morality is this. Morality is the bridge that connects science's understanding of the universe with spirituality's search for meaning. Morality is not something that is static or absolute. It is a living, breathing dialogue between disciplines, between people, and within ourselves. To answer the question I posed at the beginning of my talk, I believe that what we decide as right or wrong is multifactorial. Our environment, spirituality, and science will all play a factor in varying degrees depending on the individual. Some will find truth in science, others in spirituality, and many in both. But the purpose of morality is not to dictate a single path, but rather to illuminate the journey itself, and to ensure that, despite our differences, we can walk forward together. Thank you.